All right, welcome back in, everyone. We're joining you tonight on another victorious Saturday night in the SEC for LSU as they go on the road and knock out Florida. Just an absolutely huge win for this team. A lot of positive momentum that you can see from building from this offense. The Tigers go into Gainesville and knock off the Gators 45-35 behind some electric play from Jayden Daniels, and we'll get into all that stuff here in a minute. Of course, joining is Dylan Sanders, who is also watching this game. We're doing this from the comfort of our own homes. We will be at some more road games later this year, but decided to stick the Florida one here in Baton Rouge. But before we get started here, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe, hit the like button on YouTube. Certainly give us all your attention on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you guys get your podcasts from. Anything helps in terms of getting the brand out there, getting this podcast out there as we try to really build this thing out. But that being said, Dylan, I mean, this was the Jayden Daniels that I think everyone wanted to see. He was pretty much flawless, I would say, in this game. You had the one interception there in the fourth quarter that was luckily turned around and given a roughing the passer call, but I'd say outside of that one play, this was the guy that we thought we were getting in LSU, and this was a really big momentum performance for him in terms of what we can expect moving forward.
Yeah, this is not the time to nitpick a couple misses. Literally, everybody has a couple of misses in every game. So, all in all, this is the absolute best you can ask out of a college quarterback, in my opinion. Just realistically, of course, people can have better games, but going into a game, this is about the most you can ask realistically for a quarterback. 6 total touchdowns, 3 in the air, 3 on the ground is exactly kind of what we wanted Jayden Daniels to be. He was able to use his legs as a threat, but it was a secondary thing. It was whenever plays broke down or they had design runs. It wasn't just because it wasn't panic runs. He was as poised as could be tonight. Made some really big throws, and that's really what I wanted. Everyone knew Jayden Daniels has a huge arm, and he just hasn't used it to this season. And Brian Kelly pointed to it in the post-game press conference. Confidence comes in trusting your receivers, and this is the first game where it really looked like he trusted everybody he could possibly be throwing to, and it paid off. Man, what a performance! It was. Yeah, I've been a big Jayden Daniels supporter since he came here. I was a big fan of the transfer, and it was because I knew he had games like this in him, and this game completely shuts down, I think, for the rest of the season, any talks of putting in another quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I would say I agree with that premise as a whole. I would say, look, I mean, when you have a guy that goes for 6 touchdowns and is really the second quarterback other than Joe Burrow to ever have a game like that, I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for if you're an LSU fan, if you watched that game tonight and just didn't come away thinking, oh, okay, this is what they were seeing. This is what they were hoping to see from him moving forward. And I think you make a really great point about the receivers. Was definitely something I was going to touch on if you didn't, but the chemistry that he had with Kayshawn today, especially early in that game, him delivering the ball to 9 different receivers throughout this contest. I think 7 of those had multiple catches. 7 of those players had multiple catches. It was just an absolute shellacking. I mean, he was just picking Florida apart really from the start of this game. And the biggest thing that we wanted to see, I think we've talked about it a lot over the last couple of weeks, is the aggression. We wanted to see him take those shots. We wanted to see him make those aggressive plays downfield. I mean, that ball he threw to Ja'Ray Jenkins down the sidelines there. If that doesn't get your blood pumping, I don't know what will. That was a perfect pass. That was a great read, a great catch, a great throw.
A great use of the onside. Brian Kelly's mentioned it, like they have that play built in for stuff like that. And Jayden has not trusted it in multiple times this season. And this time he did. And look, it paid off. Ja'Ray made a veteran play, made a veteran catch, and brought it in for a touchdown. And one of the most fun plays, if not the most fun play this season.
I would say so. I would say it's definitely up there for me in terms of fun plays, in terms of just entertaining developments during a play.
Brian Thomas's catch,
Brian
both
Thomas,
his catch and his non-catch.
yeah, yeah,
I use air quotes for audio listeners.
yeah.
Tonight, were both of those highlights were awesome as well.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they got John Emery going out of the backfield with a couple passes. They got Josh Williams involved in the passing game as well. I think that's something you absolutely want to see moving forward, is getting those backs involved out of the backfield.
Josh Williams is someone that I think everybody owes a lot of apologies to, because he going into the season, I don't know if you remember in the fall camp threads, every time we mentioned Josh Williams, people were like, Josh Williams is getting this much run, and he has been, I think, the best overall back in LSU's backfield this season. Like, dude's awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I wrote about him in our 3 players piece earlier this week. I just felt like he was in for a big game. He goes for over 100 yards on the ground. That big 51-yard run right out of the gate in the third quarter, I think, really took a lot out of Florida, and just kind of really helped them kind of get back on that same track that they kind of ended the first half with, which was really impressive to see. Look, I think this was a huge game for the momentum of this offense, and I'm right there with you. I kind of think that, I was kind of the opinion that coming in this week, if LSU sputtered, if they lost to Ole Miss, if they lost to Alabama, which could still very well happen. I'm not saying they're going to beat either of those teams, but in that scenario, I was just starting to think that maybe, hey, if you're kind of looking at 5-5, if you're staring down the barrel of 500. Why not go to one of the younger guys? Why not get those guys a little bit of experience at quarterback? But I think Jayden's performance tonight is just something that can really be built on. I think they can have success next week against Ole Miss. We can touch on that a little bit at the end of the pod, but I think he was flawless tonight. I mean, 194 passer rating, completed 72% of his passes while taking those shots downfield. I looked it up during the game, but LSU had, they had 8 plays that went for over 15 yards on the night that accumulated for a huge portion of their yardage. They had 8 plays that went through the air for 220 yards gained on 15 plus yards downfield. And then they had 5 10 plus yard runs that went for 95 total yards of their full 532 yards on the night. So they were getting huge chunks. They were consistently moving the sticks. They were hitting big plays. It's just the kind of fun offense that you really wanted to see. And I think, some credit goes to Mike Denbrock. I thought they called a really great game. I think when you have an effort like this, especially on offense, it's a total team effort. And I thought that LSU did a fantastic job tonight.
Yeah, it's, again, I don't know how many times we can say it. This is exactly the game you wanted to have. It was huge for so many reasons. And we'll touch on the defense in a little bit, but even just for Brian Kelly, what a huge day for him. Not only do you beat Billy Napier, the guy who a lot of LSU fans were like looking out the window longingly towards all year, like, oh, this is the guy. And, that Napier culture, there were Florida players, I don't know if you saw this on Instagram after the game, tweeting out F this team in terms of Florida. So wow. Florida's in a bad place right now. Billy Napier's got a mess to clean up there. And meanwhile, Brian Kelly's doing Tiger Woods fist bumps on the side of the sidelines. And, for no particular reason, Stanford beat Notre Dame today. Their Stanford's first Power 5 win in 11 games or 12 games. So
we don't have to talk about the Irish. Yeah. This isn't a Fighting Irish podcast.
Yeah, but just for Brian Kelly,
I would say
great
so.
Day.
And look, one of the more interesting post-game things that I saw just kind of circulating on Twitter was Brian Kelly. He had his arm around Keyshawn Bootsy the whole time when they were doing the Forever LSU there at the end of the game. You could tell they were having a nice conversation back and forth, and there's been a lot made about that relationship. And I think there was, you had to get to a certain point with him, but I think, look, he made Kayshawn this week. He made him the offensive captain for a second week in a row, and it was because of the way Kayshawn practiced. He said that after the game that Kayshawn has really, really bought in. He's done a really nice job these last couple weeks of kind of staying the course and being kind of the I don't want to say cheerleader. Cheerleader is not the right word, but like just kind of giving that consistent effort that you hope to see from your junior leader, who's probably going to be a first round pick next year. I mean, and he was able to pay it off with a big game. I mean, I thought his performance early in this game really kind of helped dictate LSU's offense in terms of them moving the ball down the field because, Florida really just couldn't. They couldn't stop him early. I mean, Daniels and him developed a really great rapport in this game early, and I think they just were able to ride that momentum really all the way the rest of the game with the way they were passing the ball. So just a really impressive offensive performance overall. We can talk a little bit about the defense. In terms of the good, the bad, and the ugly, I would say that obviously the offense was the good. The defense was probably the bad, and I'm not even sure if ugly is really a good word to quantify special teams. I think there's something probably below there that you kind of have to look at. But
shout out to Damian Ramos, though. Dude nailed a 47-yarder.
I will say, yes, that 47-yard kick was about as clutch as you could have. He had a nice little Cade York moment there to really put LSU over the top in the final couple minutes. But, look, defensively, lots of miscues. I mean, I just there was, on the ground, they just weren't hitting the right angles. It looked like they were taking bad angles in the front seven. They were, letting Anthony Richardson kind of dictate the pocket there for a little while and kind of escape and extend plays and not being able to bring him to the ground. And, look, Florida came in. They were, a high rushing team. They were averaging over 200 yards on the ground. They got 210 in this game. They scored 4 of their 5 touchdowns on the ground. It was just another, I think, sign of concern, kind of back-to-back weeks here where LSU's run defense really kind of let them down. There were a couple of really dumb penalties, that you had against Jay Ward in this game that could have potentially cost you a huge, huge part of this game. There was not smart stuff there. And, you could see it on the broadcast that Coach Kelly certainly let him have it after, a couple of those plays. So, got to get that stuff cleaned up, particularly when you're facing a couple offenses here in Ole Miss and Alabama in the next 3 weeks that are absolutely riding a huge, huge high. But just, I guess for you, what were some of the big takeaways you took away, defensively from this game?
I don't want to ride on him too hard just because he's newer, I guess, newer to the offense, newer to the defense, newer to the team. But Joe Fouché there has to be something fixed with him because he just completely whiffed on a couple of key plays on there. And look, we'd said before the game, Anthony Richardson's a hard dude to take down.
Yeah. But,
it was Fouché on one of those runs and then a big run by ETN, I believe it was. He just completely whiffed and was late and just wasn't in position to get those tackles. So something he's going to be someone to watch. Again, he's newer. He hasn't had as much time as in-game time as anybody else. But at this point in the season, going into week 8 now, that's not an excuse for your defense as a whole. Just play someone who's ready, or he needs to get ready at this point. That's a big spot that I'm looking for is the safety game in the safety play in the run game as a whole. It just happened to be him who was a big part of it today.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of building off that a little bit, I thought the Florida offensive line, which we kind of came in thinking that might be a strength. I thought they kind of, they handled LSU's defense. They handled their front seven really well. I mean, Micah Baskerville and Harold Perkins, I thought both had really nice nights. But outside of that, I mean, I couldn't really point to a guy. I mean, Savion Jones, I think, had a couple big plays in the first quarter, but outside of that, I couldn't really, tell you many guys that made a huge impact, in that front seven. I didn't see much.
Micah Baskerville was everywhere.
Yeah,
I'll give him credit. And while we're talking about people who made it or failed to make an impact, play Harold Perkins. Just do it. I don't know how you do. It's been proven that he can play multiple linebacker positions on the field. Have him out there. Just get him on the field.
Yeah.
It's at this point, I feel like there's not an excuse. 2 weeks in a row where he was heavily underutilized, and whenever he was on the field tonight, he was an impact player. To no surprise, he had a strip sack that was called an incomplete pass for some reason, and then on the very next play, he almost did it again, the same exact thing. The kid's a crazy good football player. You got to play him. I don't know about this scheme fit stuff. Just get him on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And, he had, I think, 5 total tackles tonight. He had a nice little pass breakup in there as well. But, he's somebody that needs to be playing a lot. I liked what Savion Jones did. It looked like a lot that, Savion Jones was kind of overtaking Ali Gay in some role, in some way, in some role this game. I really liked what he did.
I think that's been needed too.
Yeah.
Ali Gay's been kind of one of the more, I wouldn't say disappointing, but more lackluster starts to the season. And having a guy like Savion Jones, who it seems like whenever he's in the game, he's in the backfield. So that's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, you don't want to rag on the secondary too much, but Bernard Converse got beat deep on a touchdown there, the very first touchdown of the game. You got to get some of that stuff cleaned up back there. When you know that Florida is a run heavy team, you've got to be on your P's and Q's at all times in the secondary, because you don't know when that play action is coming. You don't know when those delayed handoffs are coming, those run pass options are coming. So you've got to really be technically sound. I thought LSU was not all that great tonight in that area, in that respects. But look, you get to turn the page here to another game. But I think it's a big time. It's a big time thing. They're going to have to really put in that effort this week in practice, because Ole Miss is certainly a very scary and potent offense as well. I would say that I really liked. We talked a little bit about it, but I thought that the special teams was not great. I mean, look, you had a nice couple punts there from Jay Bramblett. You had the kick, the field goal there from Ramos at the end. But man, I mean, the muff punts. I mean, it's got to be in these guys' head at some point. I mean, I'm not sure how much you can chalk up to coaching, how much of it goes on execution. I think there's certainly a case to be made for both, but they've got to get that cleaned up. I mean, I just don't really, there's really no other words to kind of describe just kind of how consistently poor that has been.
I am, to this point of the season, I'm putting it on coaching. Because I mean, we've seen it multiple times. We saw it live, and they mentioned on the broadcast how today on today's muff punt, Brian Polian was trying to make last second adjustments to the positioning. So obviously they're not getting out there. They're not out there in the right spots. They had an illegal formation today. This is stuff that is, as much as the players do have to go and execute, and how much it seems like, oh, the player's out there, he has to make the catch. And that is true. But it is beyond clear to me that at this point, 7 weeks into the season, these players are being failed in their preparation. And at this point, I'm putting it solely on the coaching staff. It's past a point of being like, oh, well, maybe it's just, it is in the players' heads, but it's also a failure of coaching at this point of the season. There's no way for me to put it, to view it any other way at this point of the season. Every single week for 7 straight games is the same mistakes in the same spots. Just do something differently. I'm not a coach. I don't know how to do it differently. Yeah. I don't know what goes into special teams fully, but to me, it seems like there's no other explanation than it's a failure of coaching.
Yeah, I mean, you really feel bad for a guy like Jack Besh, who really is a sure-handed player. I mean, I think that that muff punt, you kind of saw him go off to the sidelines. He was very upset. But I also, because he didn't play much the rest of the game, if at all, and then he came back in the second half and he had what was later described as a back strain. I'm curious if maybe his back locked up on him on that muff punt. I mean, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he'd been dealing with a little bit of a back strain. We learned from Coach Kelly after the game, so hopefully he'll be okay. I think one of the other positives that came out of this game was that there wasn't a whole ton of injuries. I think guys were relatively healthy throughout this one, which you haven't been able to say in recent weeks. It seems like a different guy is missing a game, for whatever reason, pretty consistently. So to have that kind of be a non-storyline, I think was good for LSU. I think we could probably touch on the O-line. I thought the O-line held up great. Yeah, we didn't really mention the O-line with our offensive spiel, but getting Will Campbell back, I mean, you wouldn't think a freshman or a freshman left tackle would make that big of a difference, but you can really tell the continuity of this group is growing when he's in there. They're starting to get some stability with him and Emory Jones, and with Miles Frazier, with Charles Turner. And when they get Garrett Dellinger back, I think they should be able to really be rolling. But everybody had a good night up front. I thought they did a really nice job. You have to have like we said, we have to have a complete full team effort when you go for 530 total yards, and pretty well balanced, I would say, between the run and the pass. But were you really looking much at the O-line tonight, and just what did you think of kind of their performance?
We gotta give flowers. I mean, it's every week at this point, but shout out to Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Will Campbell in the hospital last week.
Right.
Comes back, they both took their lumps early in this game, and to be true freshmen on the road in the SEC against elite talent, to have the composure to come back and then really just lock in and just be dominant for most of the game. LSU has something really, really special on that offensive line, at least on the edges. Just because those are the most obvious ones to watch. Again, we're doing this one right after the game, so going back, we'll look into the interior a little bit more. Talk about it next week, but really just really impressed and really optimistic about the future of this offensive line. It's something that Kelly's always been good at, and to have two concrete true freshman tackles for at least 3 more years is something really, really special, and a very good thing to not have to worry about for the future.
Yeah, I agree. And I think kind of the stat that really propels this into, everybody was clicking on all cylinders today was, on third and fourth down, they were terrific. I think they went 10 of 14 combined on third and fourth down tonight. They were great. I thought Jayden was really good in those situations. I think at one point he was 7 of 8 or 7 of 7, on third down conversions in terms of passing, and that 4th and 1 with Josh Williams there in the fourth quarter that really allowed them to bleed off some key clock there. That was a great push up front. I think they had 6 or 7 man protection on that play, and Josh Williams just barreled his way through up the middle and did a nice job to get that first down. Just some really great stuff. I mean, stuff that you can build on, and I think that is really the big takeaway that I have from this game overall, especially on offense, is that you can really build off of this performance. I mean, there's some stuff that they think they found. I hope this is a good blueprint game for Jayden Daniels in terms of, hey, I now know that I can prove myself in this conference. I can beat teams this way. I can be aggressive. I can take my shots downfield, and I can really get all these guys involved because they are elite athletes. And that's something that he's told us, a lot when we talk to him in player interviews, is I don't think it's a lack of trust. It's just, I think it's a lack of trust in himself to make those plays to those guys and get those guys more involved. And so now that he's seen that he can do it, you hope that can translate here into Ole Miss and into Alabama. But are there any parting thoughts you have on Daniels? I mean, we talked about him a lot early in the pod, but just this is it, right? This is the kind of guy that you want to see moving forward, and a guy that can give you opportunities to compete in games like Ole Miss and Alabama.
Yeah, he's the guy. Great game from him. Again, couldn't ask for much more on the road in the SEC. People will point to the fact probably that Florida doesn't have a great defense, and that's true. But my retort to that is usually they handled a bad defense like they should handle a bad defense. Auburn had a really bad defense. Tennessee's passing defense has not been great, and this was not the performance that they got. This is such a momentum builder, a confidence builder. I can promise you the coaching staff is not going to be telling this offense that, oh, you did it against a bad defense. They're going to be saying, oh, you went into an SEC West opponent's home stadium and you dominated their defense, which is so hard to do. I don't think that that is what they did today is so incredibly hard to do. Yeah. And they did it with ease for the first 3 quarters. And then as they tried to like play a little bit more conservatively, it kind of slowed down. And maybe that is something to look at for the coaching staff. This team all season has not looked good whenever they play conservatively. I feel like it's a big red blinking sign of how they should approach this offense. And parting thoughts on this game. We have to give our flowers to Mike Denbrock for calling an excellent game. We've been hard on him. At least I have been hard on him in the past, and I believe that was right. That was rightfully so. So we do have to give him his flowers whenever he calls a great game, and that's what he did. They dialed up the right plays. They dialed up plays to get their playmakers involved. I really liked the creative stuff they did, like with shovel passes and getting the running backs involved. I thought he called an excellent game, and the entire offense was in motion, and this is exactly what we need. We know the defense didn't have the best day, but it's a thing where we know what this defense can be. We didn't know what this offense could be. So now we know what this offense can be, and we know what this defense can be, and it gives you a little bit more faith going into the harder games of the season. Again, not saying they're going to beat Alabama, they're not going to beat Ole Miss, but it gives you a lot more faith that you can at least make the games interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, 6 touchdowns on your first 6 possessions. I mean, that's just what the doctor ordered, and I think you look at this game and what did LSU what were they finally able to do on offense? That was get off to a fast start. And, I think that it's just it's so underrated being able to go into another opponent's, stadium and score, 2, 3, 4 times in a row. I mean, it just gives you so much momentum that you're doing the right thing. It takes the crowd out of it immediately. I mean, Florida's crowd was you couldn't really hear it. We were just at home, but they were pretty silent there when LSU went up, 2, 3 scores there in that third, fourth quarter range. And you feel really good, I think, about where this offense is at heading into this game or heading into this next game against Ole Miss. So, with that, we can touch a little bit on Ole Miss. Ole Miss won today. They beat up on Auburn. It was a close game for a while. I mean, Auburn had a really nice start to this one, but Ole Miss pulled away 48-34. They had 3 running backs go for well over 100 yards. That's going to be scary. I think the early game plan here is to try to make Jackson Dart beat you with his arm. Jackson Dart is not going to be the guy they've had the last couple of years, whose name is escaping me right now.
Matt Corral.
Yeah, Matt Corral. Yep. And they're gonna run you. I mean, Zach Evans is a great back.
Ole Miss had 448 yards of rushing offense today, which is really scary. Yeah. Whenever you look at how this LSU team has done against the run the past 2 weeks, and that's kind of funny because they have the single best run defender in the Power 5 in Mekhi Wingo. Yeah. In terms of grade like PFF grades, which I do tend to believe their front 7 or their defensive line, offensive line grades. I think they do have a good formula there. Mekhi Wingo, again, also still looked great today. Shout out to Mekhi Wingo. I really would like to see a lot of Micah Baskerville and Harold Perkins at linebacker. Those two seem like your 2 best players, and I feel like you can trust them. And we haven't seen that combo enough, and I feel like whenever we do see it, it works well. So that is what I would like to see. Just an early observation. This game is going to be hard. No shocker. Top 10 SEC team, hard to beat. But it is at home. It's going to be the 2:30 SEC game, CBS game. It's it's interesting. They have a bunch of really good running backs. Zach Evans was my favorite running back in the SEC going into the season, and he's their second best back. So that should give you an idea of how things are going over there for Lane Kiffin. But yeah, make Jackson Dart beat you with his arm. He ran for over 100 yards today in today's game. So maybe you have to worry about you have to worry about him on the run. So
that's kind of the MO now in the SEC is quarterbacks can run. And so LSU's got a nice healthy dose of that, between the Jordan Travises of the world, the Richardsons of the world. It's going to be an interesting game. Look, I think LSU a week ago, if you had told me that LSU was going to beat a team because of its offense, I wouldn't have believed you. But now that we've seen it, I think this is absolutely something that can roll over. I think you can start to build some really some really great momentum on this. Some really, it's just great. I mean, they've just been so great in terms of getting all these guys involved, getting all these receivers involved. If you can continue that moving on here into this game against Ole Miss before your open date, I think LSU is going to have a real shot here. I mean, I know it's really early. We're just filming this on Saturday night at 11 o'clock, but as we dive into the weeds next week, I think we're gonna see some really great stuff, and I think we're gonna get some really great information from Coach Kelly and from these players, and we'll see just kind of what that game plan looks like, what their thoughts are heading into that another top 10 matchup, another top 10 opportunity here to win at home. Continue to add some layers here to your program, to your process, to how you want this thing to look ultimately. And it's going to be a great opportunity, I think, for LSU. But with that, I think we'll.
I would say just let us know how you feel about the immediate post game reactions. It was a bit easier to do this time because we're both at home already. Right. But let us know how you felt about it because it's a little bit different of a vibe doing it like right after the game.
It's a little bit more fresher on the mind. So absolutely, but. Yeah, we'll certainly be in touch. We're going to have another pod probably, towards the end of the week, Thursday, Friday range, just like we have been. But until then, guys, we'll catch you later.